Hello, everyone. I'm Zelda Kelly with another episode of Dark Tales with Zelda. And this episode is about a call that I received a few years ago, and it really unnerved me. It chilled me to the core. And believe me, it stumped me for a minute. So let's get into it. Now, this is not the original deck that I used. I do write these stories down when I have a particular story like this. I have actually books and books of them that I've written down. So we're not going to run out of stories anytime soon. I know you all like to hear these. So this particular call, it was late at night because I've always worked the night shift. After 10 p.m. usually. And back then I was working from midnight until 6 a.m. So you can imagine the calls that were coming in. And back then, I was usually alone, and it was a little unnerving. So the phone rings. I answer. I say, "Hello, this is Zelda. May I help you?" And there was silence, and on the other end, there was a little bit of static, almost like a buzzing. Now, for those of you a few years ago that remember those cordless phones, if you got away from the base, and if you were a particular few feet away, then you would hear a little bit of buzz, an interference, and that's, I'm sure, what it was. So I'm hearing this buzzing, because back then we didn't have cell phones or internet. I was on a landline, and I'm sure she was on this cordless phone. So I answer, "Hello, this is Zelda. May I help you this evening?" Silence. I'm hearing the buzzing. And I said, "Hello, are you there?" And this very meek and soft, humbled, but very chilling and weak voice said, "Hello, I need your help." And I said, "Well, I'm here, darling. What can I help you with?" And she said, "I need you to lay out the cards for me." So I picked up my deck and I laid the cards and I started. First out came the Tower. Then came the Death Talk card. Then came the Moon card. The Judgment card. And then the last one was the Star card. And I said, "Okay, I've got the cards laid out for you. What is it that you would like to know?" And she said, "Zelda, is that really you?" And I said, "Yes, my darling, I'm here. How may I help you?" And she said, "I've not been feeling right. I've not been feeling the same." And I said, "Well, do you need a doctor? Maybe you need to call an ambulance instead of the psychic line." And she said, "No, they can't help me with this question." And I said, "What is it?" And she said, "Zelda, am I still alive?" Now this took me back, because I know that sometimes when people get into deep depression, these types of things happen where they almost want to separate themselves so they can be on the outside looking in. She's asking me, and here, look at the cards. Now, this tarot card definitely means that there was some type of incident, tragedy, or something that she had gone through that had caused her to think this way. The Death card definitely means a transformation. It means moving on to another chapter. But this Moon card, other than being a Pisces card, can mean that there's some confusion and uncertainty going forward, and that she needs to use her gut instinct. With this Judgment card, you see here, why are the people not clothed, and why, look what they're raising from. These are caskets. This is raising from the dead, meaning not literally, but metaphorically, that you're waking up to a particular situation. But this star card means that there's a new lease on life, that there's something more coming. So I asked her, I said, look, it's not so much about the cards. It's about where you are. Are you at home? And she said, yes, Zelda. And I said, are you by yourself? And she said, yes, Zelda. I said, is there an animal or something there with you? And she said, no, I no longer have any animals. And I said, is there a neighbor or is there someone that you could call to come to be with you? No, Zelda, I have no one. And I said, okay. So we talked a little bit more. And come to find it out, she had been left by her husband of 2 years. He just decided to leave one day and kept telling her that he was going to get rid of her. And 3 days before he left, he was really starting to play mind games with her. And she would try to talk with him and he would ignore her. And she would say, please, why won't you talk to me? And he would turn his back. He would look on the side of her. He would look over top of her. And this was a really sad and sick, even evil game that he played with her. He was so narcissistic that he wanted her to believe that she was no longer alive. So he treated her as though she was not. So finally, before he left her a note and said, I don't know where you are. I don't know where you've been. But if you happen to see this note, you are no longer alive in my eyes, and I'm going to be very happy to get away from you. Now, receive a note like that and be with someone so horrible like that, that's going to mess with your mind. This definitely was messing with her mind. So I talked with her some more and I convinced her that if she was in another dimension or another plane, she would not be dialing the phone and she would not be talking to me. Needless to say, this young lady needed some help, more than what I could give her. And finally, at the end of the call, I encouraged her to call a helpline. And back then, we had many numbers, 800 numbers that we would give people out if they were having a hard time, if they needed counseling. But I went a step further with this young lady. And after the call, I called our office and asked if someone could go out and do a wellness check. Told him the information. They listened to the call. And they got the address. They knew where the address was. The home office called the police department. And I waited by the phone. I wanted to hear if she was okay. I wanted to hear if there were something that maybe if I needed to talk to her. I don't know. So I waited and I waited. And finally the phone rang. I was getting ready to go to bed that next morning. And they said, Zelda, are you sitting down? And I said, yeah, definitely. What happened with this young lady? And they said the police went out to the address where the phone call came from. And there was nobody there. And I said, what do you mean there was no one there? I mean, she could have left. She could have gone down to the grocery store. She could have gone anywhere. And they said, no, there was no one there. Well, the chills started to come over me. And I said, what happened? And they said, the police called and said that there were windows broken out of the house. The grass was grown up around the house. It was definitely in a state of disrepair, and it was abandoned. So this call came from a home that no one was there, and there was no phone service. I said, how is that possible? So the police kept going out. They had some detectives going out, and finally they found that there was a note. But it was a note that was from another young lady that was on a table that had fallen off onto the floor that said, I no longer want to be here. And it sounded like you know what note. They looked around the property, they couldn't find her, and from that moment on, we never knew who that was, where she was, or where that call came from. It took me a few days to shake that one, and when I think back and I hear that sweet little voice, I think, what really did happen in that house? What really did happen in that abandoned house where this young lady felt so abandoned, not only in real life, but maybe abandoned in the next? We will never know. And that's one I can chalk up that gave me the creeps. Seriously. I want to thank you so much for joining me with Dark Tales of Zelda. Ooh, that was a good one, and I'm going to tell you I got the chills right now. Next week we're going to come up with another one. I've been reading for a long time, and believe me, I have heard it all. But you just never know what kind of call you're going to take. In the meantime, I want you to be blessed, be well, be safe, and love on your loved ones. And I will see you again next time. Bye for now.